Same thing for Etsy Shadow, where our passwords are stored. But you will notice something. So grep ran Etsy Shadow. This file you will only be able to read as root. You won't be able to read it as another user, if my memory serves me right. Let's go ahead and check. No need to speculate at all. Etsy Shadow. And there we go. Nobody has any permissions, but that only means that the root is the only one that can do anything to the file. You can see it's all just hyphens, minus signs. It's completely forbidden to access it. Okay, so let's go ahead and list it out as root, because you will only be able to do this as root for Shadow. For a passwd, you should be able to do that as a regular user as well. Anyway, here you have the username, and then you have the password hash, which ends here. So at the first colon it ends, and the password hash is quite long. You will not be able to see the passwords in clear text. There is no way you can do that, especially not in Linux, and you can't do that in any operating system that I know. You won't be able to do it in Windows or Mac or anything of a kind. That is a unique feature across the board in pretty much all the major OSs out there. Password will be hashed, encrypted, and the file will be inaccessible. Only root will be able to access it, which is a pretty good security feature. I mean, let's say that somebody obtains a remote shell, or somebody plugs in a USB into your computer. They won't be able to grab the Etsy Shadow file, and even if they do somehow magically grab it, its contents will be encrypted, and it is highly unlikely that they will be able to decrypt it, especially if you've used a stronger password, let's say more than 8 characters long, and containing uppercase letters, lowercase letters, characters, numbers. Yeah, the amount of time that somebody would need and the sort of hardware that they would need in order to crack it goes outside of the rational sphere. I mean, it would take decades, even hundreds of years, depending on what sort of hardware you have, even more than that. Therewith, you can rest assured that your passwords are safe and secure when they are stored in this manner. Now, these two files you should keep in mind. There is other information in the Etsy Shadow file, and there is other information which can be added to the Etsy passwd file within the same line. That sort of information we will do later on. Like, for example, you can issue comments, you can assign additional programs to run instead of in addition to the, not only instead, but also in addition to the bash shell or something of a kind. There's lots of options that you can add here that are not all listed. Now, you might have noticed that there are some other things past the hash. We will deal with them in the follow-up tutorials as well. No worries there. These are some of the things that you will be setting, like the expiration date of a password, or do you want to lock it, disable it, or something of a kind. Here in the Etsy and passwd file, especially in the Etsy Shadow file, you will be able to see, I meant to say Etsy Shadow, not just Etsy. You will be able to see whether the password for that account has been locked out or deactivated, or does it have an expiration date, or something of a kind. Whatever is needed by you at the moment, you will be able to find that sort of information in regard to your users in Etsy Shadow and Etsy passwd files. Anyway, you can also list these two by doing this. Let's just do this before I decide to wrap up the tutorial. Grep Etsy passwd. This is not gonna work. We'll have to do it in a different way. So cat Etsy Shadow grep, what shall we grep? Ran, and then cat Etsy passwd grep run. There we go. Now we have both of these things listed out here without any problems. We can actually see both of them, and we see the information that is contained within the Etsy and within the Etsy passport and within the Etsy shadow file. Usually that's the first place where you will look if the user is having any problems or any difficulties logging in. Anyway, I bid you all farewell and a download of luck until next tutorial. Hi all, today I am going to go ahead and show you how you can create a user in Red Hat. So first off, please become root by typing in su and then go ahead and type your password in. Excellent. Now I will clear the screen, and in order to add a user you need to use a command called user add. The command has a lot of arguments that you can pass to it. The sort of arguments that you would want upon creating a user, the sort of arguments that give you the options that you would want when you are creating a specific user. So first off, let's go ahead and climb up to the top. You can add additional lines to the user creation with the comment section. And down below you can specify, there's a home directory of the new account. This one is interesting in particular, that -e, the expire date. So you can either just press -e, -e, and that's going to expire the account immediately upon login. Upon first login, the user will need to change their password immediately, or you could actually set a specific date when you want the account to expire. A lot of these options down below are self-explanatory. Please do read through this. If you need any help with any of these options, I am always monitoring the Udemy discussion section, so please feel free to inquire in regards to any of them. Down below you have -M. It says, well, this is written in a rather funny manner, no create home. Some weird version of English, but this is not a version of English, this is a command. It says here, do not create user's home directory. So if you want to create a user without a home directory, that is how you would do it. Anyway, down below you can specify that you want to create a system account. For these system accounts, as I've said before, are used for specific processes. For example, you have Apache, which is used to run a Apache web server, and that user has a specific set of permissions and a very detailed list of what it can and cannot do. Down below, again, you are able to specify the user identifier, so UID. These things will be created by default, but if you wanted to create a specific one, you can actually change it here. Create a group with the same name as the user. This is also going to happen by default as well, if I'm not mistaken. We shall see soon enough. But you are also able to give the name or ID of the primary group of the new account, which is also one of those interesting options. But let us use something that people use in general. So go ahead and clear the screen. Type in user add, and we would like to create a user by what shall be the username? Username will be Adam, and then we will, well, actually first we will pass in this. So the real name of the user will be Adam Orlock, the guy from the comic books. And what shall be the name of this user? Well, the username will be Adam. So something very simple to memorize without any bigger, that you can figure out without any bigger difficulties. Go ahead and press enter. The user has indeed been created, but Linux is a bit awkward with these things. Well, I wouldn't say awkward, but it can be a bit inconvenient to new users because it doesn't actually tell you anything. You just go ahead and create the user and that's it. The exit code is 0, so nothing is printed out to the screen, nothing else is done. Usually 99.99% of the cases when something like this happens, you type in user add and then you've typed in the name. Here, the user has been created, the function has ran through, nothing has been, the system didn't report any anomalies or errors or warnings or anything of a kind, so everything is well. If you get an error message, then you know something is wrong. Let's go ahead and try to run that command one more time, and you see this is an error message. It says user add, user atom already exists.